What's up, everyone? It's good to see you tonight. Bishop Clint and Kendall, we welcome you guys to the broadcast tonight. We're excited. And look who's on with me tonight. This is the first time. This is the first time you guys have seen Johvana.
I'm alive, y'all. I'm alive.
She is alive and well and as fine as she ever been.
I made it. I made it through labor and delivery. I'm here.
Listen, guys, we want you to hit your share buttons, as Pastor Christian said, as we are going through this tonight. Be engaged, be involved in this dialogue tonight by giving us your comments. Hit those hearts and those thumbs. That's your way of saying amen. And I pray you've enjoyed Relationship Realities over the last 3 Wednesdays. And on Sundays, of course, the Oneness series, we've been talking about wholeness without fragmentation, properly put together, complete. And we've been talking about the soul a lot on Sunday. So I encourage you to go back, as Christian said, and watch those broadcasts. But listen, as we put the capstone on this series tonight, I could not be more excited than I am about the 2 people who are joining us tonight.
Yes.
You all have heard from Bishop Gary McIntosh and his wife, Debbie, Joe Morgan, and Yolanda. But tonight, we have Bishop Clint Brown and Kendall Brown. And you know what, Bishop, I'm going to go ahead and say this. Before these things go on, you know, we have a little time to talk. And you and Johvana were away from the camera. And Kendall said, she kind of dropped something on me. She said, you know, tonight is the night, Rick Hawkins. She said, we get to talk about something that I am smarter than you and Clint about, which is relationship.
All right. That's good. I'm the same here.
Oh, man. Listen, you think you're the same, babe?
I think it's the same for me. Yeah. It's about time.
So you think you and Kendall know more about relationships?
Well, you know what I say?
What?
You know what I say, Pastor Rick?
What's that?
The first rule of relationships is knowing how to pick the right one.
There you go.
So they
there
are
you
smart.
go. So they did good, right?
Right. I waited my whole adult years to pick the right one.
You did.
Yeah.
You know, I was thinking about that before we came on. We started this whole series 4 Wednesdays ago I was talking about the perfect match. And I talked about the difference in a perfect catch and a perfect match.
Right. And
how that there's no perfect people, but 2 imperfect people can make a perfect match. Right. And I'm very grateful that Johvana is in my life, because I feel like she is a perfect match to me. Bishop, we could go back to Genesis chapter 2 and talk about that first institution of relationship that we see there. I want you to open us up tonight and just talk to us a little bit about the institution of marriage, what it means, and then I want us to graduate into the thought. You know, I was thinking about Johvana. Her life had to change like that. She's never been in ministry. She was never married. And all of a sudden, she meets me, she's married, and she's in ministry. And those 2 worlds are 2 huge worlds. Right. Bishop, talk to us about marriage, the institution of marriage, and let's just start at that origin and we'll progress.
Well, I think, first of all, we're both honored to be on here with both of you. Love you both dearly and appreciate it. Love Quest Church, all the members there. And so it's an honor for us to even be invited. And that whatever we think or maybe our input has value with you guys, that's a humbling thing for us. When I think about relationship, I think about this. I think, you know, a lot of times we think about the man being the stronger and the woman being the weaker, and even the scripture refers to that. But in the referring to that, it wasn't talking about strength as in what we know strength to be, because I believe a great relationship is this. When God created Adam, the Bible says that God said he needed a helpmate. And so, Pastor Rick, you are a lot like me. We grew up a lot similar backgrounds. You grew up around hard work. You grew up around working out in the field, working in the barn, all that kind of stuff.
Right.
When you need help to carry something, a cross tie, you need help to lift a gate, you need help to whatever. Isn't it true that the important thing is I have to find someone when I'm going to carry something that's heavy of equal strength, not less strength, but equal. And so I believe when God gave me Kendall, when he put her in my life, I believe that he didn't put somebody weaker than me. He didn't even put anybody stronger than me. Somebody that matched the need that I had in my life to carry. And that meant when she grabbed one end and I grabbed the other end, we could move it and accomplish it, whatever it is that God's called us to do. I needed someone with equal strength to help me carry that. And I believe that's the key of relationship, is valuing each other's equal strength. And that's why God put that mate in your life. If that makes sense.
It makes total sense. And I've never heard it put that way. And it brings a lot of clarity to relationships, in my opinion. So that's what I would call a complementary relationship. It is two equal parts. I was telling our people Sunday that 2 half people don't make a whole person. And it takes 2 whole people to make a complete relationship. And I believe that many times we are arrested personally in our development as individuals. And many times we attach where we were arrested. In other words, we all know that we go from total dependency as a baby or a child to independence, and we wind up in interdependence. But if we're not developed properly and are arrested in any of those areas, we develop what we call codependent relationships. And in codependent relationships, there's controlling maneuvers, manipulation, fabricated ideologies, and all of those things. And I know we've all seen that in our life with people. So, the best time to marry me was when Johvana married me, because I felt at that point I was complete. When I was married, and we're just going to be totally transparent here, the first time I was 19 years old, and I had a child when I was 19 years old. Dustin was born when I was 19 years old. I'm not saying that getting married young is a bad idea, but it wasn't a good idea for me. And I think I was arrested. And so the relationships that I developed, or the relationship with my wife that I developed, was very codependent. And after my divorce 15 years ago, I learned how important it is to become a whole individual. And I believe that's what I was able to present to Johvana. And I know that's what I found in her. Kendall, we'll go from Kendall to you, babe. Kendall, what is it like? We talked about this a little bit today, and we wanted to ask you this. Marriage and ministry. Bishop is married 2 times. He's married to you, and he's married to his ministry. How do you balance all of that? And that's probably the hardest working guy I know about.
The hardest working person I've ever met in my life, actually. I think that it's so important to find a balance in marriage and ministry. And I think it's something that we all, and I know that y'all would relate to this, it's something that we struggle with every single day, just to find the balance. But I knew that when I married Clint, I knew that I married a call. I married a man, but I married a man with a call. I married a call. And when God connected me to him, I honestly, this isn't for everybody, but like for y'all and for us, like ministry and marriage, like everybody doesn't have this experience. But like for me, I have so much honor and I have so much respect for the call on his life and the gift of who he is and for what he does, that I am very willing to accommodate and many times take the back seat to so mmany different, to my own personal needs, just so that, because I honor and respect what he's called to do. And I know that God me alongside of him, that I was created for this, that I was graced for this, that God gives me the capacity to walk in that. But I honor the call that's on his life, and I'm honored to serve next to him. And it can be, and I know Johvana can certainly relate to this. I mean, we work hand in hand in the ministry. We work hard, but it is, I think for a pastor's wife, it can be a very, very selfless position. You must be willing to be selfless, because the call that's on his life is so much bigger than me or us. It's just big, and it means a lot to me. So that's where I find my balance.
Well, I want to say something to you, Kendall, before we go to Johvana. I want to commend you, and that's why we wanted to have you guys on here last, because I'm going to tell you something. If I've ever seen a woman do that, it's you. We're all friends here, but I've watched you in person honor Clint. I'm going to just call you Clint tonight, Bishop, if that's all right. I've watched you show respect for him in public. I've watched you defend him like amazing defense of your husband. Not that he needed it, but you were there as a wall and insulation for him. And so I wanted to just pause and commend you for your service in the kingdom of God, but your partnership to an incredibly honored man in the body of Christ. You, Kendall, you should be honored. You should. It's amazing what you've done. And so I just want you to know it's not going unnoticed. I've watched it. Johvana has talked about it. We celebrate you tonight, Kendall. You're a blessing. Yes. And on top of that, anybody that can be married to Clint Brown ought to be really blessed.
I agree.
Baby.
Well, I got to say that she touched every point that I was going to. I believe everything she said to be true with me. Yeah. It's so true. And I've learned as a pastor's wife, you have to be selfless in what you want, and put your needs in that back burner. You got to get things done first for the ministry. I believe the calling is an individual thing. Mm-hmm. We got to be called. We got to feel that calling individually. But the Bible says when two are married, you become one flesh. So I deeply believe in what he does, and his vision is now my vision, and not that it wasn't before. It's not the first time that I've led and served.
Right.
So I have a lot of experience in that, me being the vice president to a nonprofit organization for breast cancer survivors and fighters for a very long time, maybe 10 years, gave me a lot of experience. And so I know that you have to kind of put yourself last in some occasions, and lead and serve as God has called us to do. But with Ricky alongside, he makes it so much easier. I know some pastor wives have it a little harder, but he really makes it as easy as it can be for me. And I think it's maybe because of your past marriage. And I remember you clearly saying to the church, I don't want to bring my wife in as that pastor wife. I really want her to be my wife, experience her as a wife.
Married to me and not married to them. Yeah.
And so I really appreciate that from him. But I've learned to love our congregation, the church, every individual that goes there. So I don't mind being involved.
Right.
I really enjoy it.
And every man, we look for acceptance, we look for security, identity, the basic needs of all of us. Probably my biggest one, Bishop, is affirmation. I like being affirmed. When we walk off the pulpit, even you and I together, we'll say, how was that? How did that go? Did I do all right for you? And that's really affirmation that we're looking for. Right. And I just, I thank God for my wife, because she lets me know I'm her favorite preacher in the world. That I'm full of revelation. That was a powerful service.
Well, you are, babe.
Well, thank you.
No disrespect to Bishop, but and I'm sure Kendall believes that too of her husband.
Yeah, but it doesn't, Bishop, you want to jump on that? That affirmation part for a man to me is significant.
Yeah, I think one of the things too that you mentioned, getting married young, my father was not a minister, but I grew up with a ministry, surrounded by a ministry influence. And we were told, and I guarantee you were, that if we were going to be in the ministry, well, you better find a wife that can complement what you do. You better find somebody that can play the piano, sing. And so they didn't tell you to seek for love. They didn't tell you to seek for something not just companionship, but like compatibility. You better find somebody that's going to be able to complement your ministry. And I found out that complementing and completing a ministry are two different things.
Come on.
And I, what we do, we need people that, wives that will come into our life, that came into our lives, that yes, knows how to compliment us, but won't let us stop without completing what we've been called to do.
Right.
And, I think one of the things, that we search for, and the reason is because as a little girl, I think women are prepared for life, and I think men are pretend to life.
Wow.
And I'll tell you what I'm talking about. When we were little, our parents bought us fake, the little cowboy guns, holsters, and we played cowboys and Indians, or we played different, or Batman suits, or Robin suits, but not little girls. Little girls got doll houses that they learned how to decorate. They got babies that would cry. They changed their diapers. All these little toys. And to me, I think women were constantly being prepared as little girls while we were pretending. And then it flips on you. When you're 10 or 11 and your dad's leaving the house, my dad would look at us and go, okay, while I'm gone, you're the man of the house. So
that's right.
You're feeling the responsibility at a young age. He never said that about my sister. He said that to us. Then when we would go places, we would be asked these questions. Well, are you going to be a pipeline superintendent like your daddy? Well, are you going to be a lawyer like your daddy? Hey, are you going to be a preacher like your daddy? We're constantly that pressure of, we weren't prepared. We were pretending. And then all of a sudden you start getting the pressure. Whereas women, are constantly my little queen, my little princess. That's my little man, And so I think when we get in ministry, I think the thing we look for is, man, we've been doing this and we need somebody to affirm us finally and tell us what we're doing is effective. It's good. It's making a difference. And I got to say, out of everything that I think Kendall is tremendously gifted with, and she's got great gifts that our church benefits from. I think the greatest thing is her ability to affirm. It's the greatest gift she has. And I never realized, I always said, and I would tell her, I don't need you to compliment me. I don't need that. But something deep inside of her knew, yeah, he does.
Yeah.
Yes, he does. I guess, there's a part of me that's like, hey, I've been doing this for years, and I've accomplished this and accomplished that. And the last thing I need is for you to compliment me. But deep down in her, I think in her heart, I think she knew that's part of her assignment, is to reaffirm me, to continually keep me confident in who I am and what I do. And I think that's extremely important. Extremely important. I can't tell you how many pastors I know out there and men that just work their fingers to the bone, and all they get from their spouse is it's just not good enough, or comparing. Why is that church successful? Why is that, they'll go visit a conference and they'll see what other people are wearing, driving. It's tough, when you're doing your best. And a wife that tells you you're the best and believes it, not just to patronize me, she believes that. That means something to me, because she don't, and I know I might offend people, she's not a BSer to anybody. And
right.
She doesn't do it to me, because there's been times I've got in the car and she's told me, she said, look, that was a good word, but let me tell you something. You're preaching angry, and it's not going to benefit us. You're mad, you're angry, or you're upset, or you're preaching to the people that aren't in the building, Clint.
Yeah.
She doesn't always just come at me and go, oh, you're phenomenal, you're great. But when I do ring the bell, she lets me know it. And she always, when she brings a word to me about something, whether it's it sounds possibly negative, she always knows how to layer it with that other stuff that says, look, you and I both know you're a great preacher, and I appreciate that, but it's also truth, that makes it effective. But yes, affirmation, I think ever since we're little boys, daddy, watch me, daddy, watch me, daddy, watch me. It's just built into us. Whereas little girls didn't have to do that. Right. They were daddy's little girl princess and all this. And we were always, that's my little man. We always had to accomplish something. I thank God for her and the way she does that. It's awesome.
I like that.
I love your perspective on stuff and how you can make it so practical. And the revelation behind it is always powerful. I can sit here and listen to you talk all night. Kendall, do you have any caveat on any of that? Because I've got a couple of questions for you guys, but I want to give you an opportunity.
I'm so ready for the questions, but I think my caveat on that, I know, I did wondered if we would open this up by speaking to the people who are unmarried, because there's a lot of people that are watching that are unmarried. And I just remember, people that know my testimony, some do not, but I was married for almost 20 years before I married Clint. I've been married. That's why I said I'm the best. I've got all the answers. Let me just school all of y'all. I've been successfully married for almost 20 years before I married him. And now we're almost 8 years. Let the people,
Kendall, let the people know the whole story. You weren't divorced.
No, my husband and I were in a boating accident after almost 20 years of marriage. And he was just about to be 40 and I was just about to be 40. And he was killed. And so, and we'd known Clint, actually, we were on staff with Clint years prior. And then when God, and I always say that on the heels of the greatest tragedy of my life came the greatest miracle of my life, when God not only not just connected me to Clint, but God reconnected me to my purpose when God connected me to Clint. And what the enemy meant to destroy me and to end me, God just said, it's just crazy. There are some things you just have to just accept God's sovereignty, even though you don't understand. But I absolutely know that even in that, I say it always about my life, that I wouldn't want to live it over, even from my childhood. I wouldn't want to do it again, but I wouldn't change. And it took me a while to say that about my husband dying. 20 years of marriage. That's a big, it's a big deal. My mom had been married 3 times. So when I married the very first time, I did it right. I held on. I was a virgin. I waited for the one, like it was it. And people have different perspective about the one, but that's what I was going to say to the single people. But I held on. And because I felt like I'd already been divorced twice, because my mom had been through divorce twice, and I wasn't going to get it wrong. And then after God brought me that gift, and then to lose that, when I married Clint, I didn't do it lightly, because I didn't take it lightly the first time. And I knew that God had a call in my life, my whole life. And when God connected me to Clint, he just reconnected me to that purpose that was on the inside of me. But I just think about, people often would ask me advice about marriage. And I often say that I'm going to write a book, Marriage is as Easy as 1, 2, 3, which is really hilarious, because marriage is freaking difficult. Great marriage is freaking hard. I mean, you have to work hard every day to have a great marriage. I mean, people that you see have great relationships, it is not by accident. You work hard to have a great relationship. But my premise for that is, number one, God created you on purpose and with a purpose. And who you connect with is so important. You know, people take you up or take you down. Like, it is very important who you connect with, who you marry. But also that God gives us the desires of our heart. And that scripture means that he puts those desires within us. When I was 13 years old, I said, God, I don't care what I have to go through in my life to know you. I want to know you. And then, you know, many, many years later, I wave the white flag and say, I know you good enough, you know. But I believe that God put that in my heart. I believe because God knew my path and he graced me to walk this journey, you know. But but when God created me, he did not create me. And for those that are watching that are unmarried, if you desire to be married, I think that God placed that desire within you. I think that God doesn't have for you to be single if you desire to be married. So number one, God created you with a purpose on purpose and put the desires in your heart. And then whatever it is. So when I was young, I just say you take the top 3 things. If you are not married, you take the top 3 things, put them in order of the most important to the least, at least 3 things. Mine was, I already know, I want a man that loves God with all his heart. And that relationship is before me and not about me and not for me. It has nothing to do with me. That's him, you know, number 2, number 3. But here's the thing. It doesn't take 15 dates to find out if somebody's got your number 1, 2, and 3. It really doesn't. So you just like settle it in your head right away. Like, this is just a movie date. This is just a dinner date or whatever. But like, you get those top 3. And I believe that's what God put in you, and you don't settle, you know, and then you don't wind up in a stupid situation, you know?
Yeah.
So, but I just knew when God connected me to Clint that God was reconnecting me to my purpose. And it was very, very, it was very clear. It was very evident. It was not easy. It wasn't easy,
No.
You know, but
How long were you single, Kendall?
A year and a half, I think.
About
a year.
About a year.
About a year.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, when we got married. Yep.
But
And I had been single almost 11.
Yeah, I had been married 20 years. He had been single for 11 years. It was not long after, which is crazy. And people really did question me. I even went to talk to a counselor to make sure I wasn't crazy, because I thought could I be crazy? But everybody around me was saying, yeah, you know, this is God. But I think, again, it speaks to like, when you know, like people ask me all the time, like, how did you overcome that or whatever? You know, God can meet you in a moment, heal your heart, you know, whatever. Grief is a process. But the thing is that we all go through things in our life. And when that thing comes up against you, it's literally it's just a choice, you know, to move on is a choice. And when I was in that position, the first thing I did was get in God's presence with Clint Brown's worship music. I said, I've got to get God's presence, and I got to find my peace, and I got to find my joy. And I just drive around in the night by myself and sob my eyeballs out and listen to his worship music and just say, God, you've got to meet me right here, you know? And so
yeah,
she could be right
quickly
in that she does have us on this, Bishop. It's very obvious that she understands successful relationship. I believe you now, Kendall. I do believe you.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
I remember when you called me one time, Bishop, I was very single. And you told me, you said, man, how you doing? And I'm good. And we were just having one of our homeboy talks. And you said, you're never going to get married. And I said, why do you say that? And you said, because your life is too put together. You don't have room. You remember telling me that?
Absolutely.
You said you don't have room for a wife in your life. There's no room for her. And it was at that point that I realized, now I think I'm really ready, because I felt that complete. And that's when I met Johvana, and Johvana met the best thing that's ever happened in her life.
And hey, and just got the best thing that ever happened in her life because of you.
Little mini me of him.
Hey,
I tried.
Thanks to me.
Yeah, that's right.
Well, let me complete that sentence.
I still got it, brother.
Yes, sir.
Let me affirm what you just said. Yes, baby, you are the best thing that's happened to me. It really is.
Thank you. Thank you.
But going back to affirmation, I love what you said, Kendall. It is so true. You do. I've always felt like I would end up in something like this, in ministry, and perhaps maybe even a pastor or bishop, which I ended up doing. I remember my friend, right before I met you, she said, you know what? I have a feeling you're going to marry a pastor. In the back of my mind, I was like, I agree. I think I will for some reason. And then we did.
Yeah.
But going back to affirmation, that's something that I've kind of learned from you. And I think it's something that a lot of women and people in general struggle with, is affirming somebody. But I believe I've learned that from you a whole lot more to do it so much. I think I haven't had it my whole life either. And it can end up hurting you in so many ways, even dealing with the wrong relationships and with wrong people.
Yeah.
That lack of affirmation. But I've learned from you to affirm and be more affirmative. You can either make somebody very sensitive by criticizing them in their wrongdoings, or you can satisfy somebody by the words you choose in your vocabulary. So affirmation, you satisfy people with it. You choose to always want to satisfy your wife in every area of their life. So why not satisfy them with affirmation? So I believe that to be very, very, it's something women really need to learn. You've said it before, that you learned from someone else, that you will get from your wife what you call her, or be careful what you call your wife.
Yeah, whatever you call her, that's what you're gonna get.
That's what you're gonna get.
We'll go two more things here and we'll be done. But I want to ask this question, both of you guys and Johvana as well. We're gonna talk about two things: greatest challenge in relationship and the greatest cornerstone of relationship. Let's start with that. What is the greatest cornerstone in a relationship, in your opinion? The most important thing in a relationship, healthy relationship, the most important thing.
Well, a lot of people would say trust, but I don't think trust is the most important thing. I think honesty is. I think if you're honest, I think that builds trust. It's one thing to say something to say something someone wants to hear. It's way more important to say something someone needs to hear. Wow. And I think honesty, to me, in a relationship is the most important thing for me than anything else. Honest about what you're feeling in the moment. Honest about, and it doesn't have to be, like this, because men, Kendall and I were having this conversation the other day. I tend to say, when she says, "What's wrong with you?" I tend to say nothing when there is something wrong with me. And the truth of the matter is I'm just processing it. But I think it's scary to be honest. For me, it is, because you have a fear of rejection. You have a fear of being judged. There's a lot of fears that come with being honest. I don't think everybody that lies is lying because they're a bad person. I think people that lie most of the time are lying because of the consequences, because of the judgment, because of not being accepted anymore. So I think, to me, if there's honesty, hey, you made me feel this way, or hey, I don't like this, and you put it on the table as, you can, be mad at me about me being honest. You can be hurt about me being honest. And we can work through anger and hurt and all of that. But you can't work through lies. You can't progress and go forward with lies. But you can work on somebody being mad at you. You can work it out. You can work on somebody being hurt, because you can talk it out. But you can't get to any healing if you're not willing to be vulnerable enough to be transparent and be honest.
Man, that's rich stuff, man. Rich stuff. Kendall?
Well, I was going to say trust, but without honesty, you can't build trust. So I was going to say that. And then the second part of that question was, you had two. You said,
the other one is the greatest challenge in your relationship.
Oh, the greatest challenge. Oh man.
Honesty.
No, it's not. No, I think I didn't know that you said the greatest challenge. I don't know if it's the greatest challenge, but I think it's like so important, vital, like you can't do without, is communication. And that's one of your points. Are we going to get to the sex, the money, and the communication? Okay,
We're in it
communication.
now. We're in it now.
But no, communication, I think, is so important, and because women and men, it's like our world today, we can't say anything.
Yeah.
And we can't have an opinion about women and men, but I'm sorry, America, women and men are like, we're wired differently. Like our hormones are different, like our chromosomes are different, like everything's different. So just men and women, we think differently, we process differently, we communicate differently. And like some women have, I always say and I think you would agree with this, like I really do process, think, and kind of communicate at most of the time a little bit more like a man. Like I think some women have a masculine energy that just kind of operates a little bit more like not as soft. And so I'm kind of like that, which is why, that's one of the reasons like why I think we work. But men and women just communicate so differently. They process, think differently, and all of that. But this is true about me, even though I'm that way. Most women, I think, when they come with something to communicate about, they literally, mostly, they just want you to be quiet and just listen, because mostly we can process. It's kind of like going to a good counselor and they just reflect, like, how does that make you feel? Blah, blah, blah. And they just mirror everything that you're saying. It's kind of like that. We just sort of need somebody to listen and just let us like work through the problem. That's why women just sit and talk. And we just work through because the answers come out, But men are hardwired to solve the problem. So they want the facts. Like, give me the facts. Like, while this talking, just give me the facts and let me solve the problem. When most of the time.
Hey, you know what I'm thinking? The next time we have a problem, I'm going to tell her, you need to go watch that video and listen to your own advice about all these details. Let me say this. You asked, we told you what's important, and communication, honesty, trust, all that. But you also asked difficult. And I think that's an important question, and we didn't answer that. I'll tell you my most difficult thing, and that is this. I've been in this thing 37 years full-time. 37. 27 of it has been my ministry. Right? I'm the pastor. I roll up on the property. They need to do it the way I want to do it. I want it done. I have a plan. I have a purpose. I have a vision. I have an outline of it. I know how I want it to look, all that. So everybody on that property, when I roll up, they're, I don't think about this, but they're under my authority. And if I go, I want something to drink, they go get it. I don't like that. They'll change it. I don't turn that off. They'll turn it off. I don't want to see that person. They won't let them in. Go get me this, do this. And I'm so used to bossing people that when I get home, it's difficult to take that hat off of I'm in charge of everything. Because subconsciously, honestly, Pastor, I don't think about I'm the boss. Everybody's here because, and they want to please me and everybody wants me to be happy with them. All that. It's really not in my brain, but subconsciously it's happening because they do that. Bishop, you need anything? Bishop, can I do anything for you? Bishop, you da-da-da-da-da. So when I get home, it's hard to take that hat off. That's the hard thing for me, is to not be pastor, bishop, in charge of, everything in this house is what I want. So it's difficult for me to do that. I'll be real honest. And then the fact that I was single 11 years and everything in my house was the way I wanted it. And she walked into my life, and now you have to take not only someone's opinion, you have to care about it.
Please.
Which is difficult to do after 11 years of never thinking about that, you know?
Right.
And so I don't know if that makes sense, but it really is hard for me sometimes to take the hat off of everything's like I want it and everything's done the way I want it done. So when I get home, life ain't like that when you get in your house. You know? Ain't the way it is.
You just read my.
You're not alone, Ricky.
No. See, I'm the same exact way. And it's not only getting this done, but the speed of it getting done.
Yes.
And I'm like, when I asked Johvana for something here, like it takes 10 minutes
Now,
to walk right there
20 minutes now with River.
to get a glass of water. You know, and I'm like, are you going to come back with the water?
Yeah. Whenever we have two good legs and two good hands ourselves.
Exactly. And
Hey,
that's
don't you
where
love
I'm
it
going.
when they say, hey, Johvana, don't you love it when they say, is there any Tabasco? Do we have salt? Yes, we have salt.
You sound just like him.
We have ketchup? Yes, we have ketchup. Yeah, no, we
No.
have ketchup.
Yeah.
It's a request, like, can you go get the salt? Can you get the water? Can you get the Tabasco?
Yeah.
When I was pregnant, he did this to me while I was pregnant.
Oh.
Babe. And I look at him like, are you serious? But he knows, and he comes and makes it better.
Yeah. That's my challenge.
Yeah.
What's
Well,
your challenge?
I can totally identify with that. Totally. You guys have been absolutely wonderful on this tonight. Kendall, you want to talk about money and sex, Cindy?
I mean, I don't know how much time we have. We're going to get to it.
She got excited when she saw that rated R thing.
Yeah, I was like, it's rated
Yeah, come on.
What are we going to do?
Let's talk about it.
Let's take 10 minutes, because I'll be honest with you, in the relationship reality series this month, none of the guests have jumped on that whole sex part. Joe and Yolanda talked about money. I love sex.
Yeah.
We have the proof of it.
I have proof.
6 weeks old.
6 weeks old. Did you prepare to talk about any of that, Kendall? Because if you did, I want to hear it.
I think there's only two real things that you have to talk about when it comes to sex. Number one, men are visual creatures. And I think that is like, I think it's so important. Like, if we just understand each other, then we know how to relate better, and we know how to have better relationships. And if we understand as women that men are visual, I was taught by my mother-in-law, my only mother-in-law, like if I know that Clint is 5 minutes from the house, and I have not, and I'm still in my zip up XL onesie, I may be working all day long, but I will jump up, get it together, run to the bathroom, put on some lipstick, like get myself together. Men are visual. And I think it's so important. And, women like want to get all like weird about about that. I don't know why women want to get all weird about that, because we want to be, recognized. We want to be seen. It's like you said, as little girls, we're dressing up in the princess dress and we're putting on the makeup and the high heel shoes. Why? Because we want to feel pretty. We want to be seen. And then everybody gets so upset because men are visual. So I think it's really important to just have respect for that, and know, especially for like women that maybe women that do stay at home. Maybe you are a stay-at-home mom, or you work from home, whatever. Man goes out, he works all day, every day. Like I don't know the statistic, I didn't look it up, but like a man has a sexual thought like less than every minute, like every so many seconds, and biologically, how deep do we want to go?
You go as far as you want.
Biologically, scientifically, physically, a man, let me just say it like this. Women, we have all the eggs we're ever going to have, right? We're born with them.
Right.
Men aren't born with all they're ever going to have. They constantly make it all the time, right? About every 72 hours. Like there's a natural thing that just needs to occur.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's a thing. It's scientific. Look it up. But I just think that we should have respect for the needs of the other person. Men are they're visual creatures, and we should respect that
and I think
get it together. Get that together and be glad about it.
I think too, Pastor Rick, I think this is very important. Especially for wives of people in the ministry, it is difficult for us, you and I, like I said, to take that hat off. That when we come in the house, I think it's Kendall's responsibility to not make me feel like she's having sex with Pastor Clint Brown. That's not our responsibility.
I think, yeah.
That's your responsibility.
Oh, yeah, I think.
And to make me not feel like she's having sex with the bishop. Because there were times whenever I know I've talked to a lot of pastors through the years, their spouses have a hard time separating the man in the pulpit and the man in the bedroom.
Yep.
You know, and then that judgment comes that I can't believe you asked me to do that. I can't believe you said that. I can't believe you want that. I can't believe you like that. Well, you know, I think a man and woman's bed is undefiled. I think what we like, what we want, what I want shouldn't have to fit some doctrine or religious structure, you know. And when I walk through that door, it's Kendall's responsibility to not make me feel like she's having sex with the pastor, because that changes the whole dynamic and the whole aura of what we're doing.
Who wants to have sex with a pastor?
Yeah. And I would tell everybody, if you're going to have sex with your spouse, don't put my praise and worship on. Come on, man. Put on some Brian McKnight. Put on, you know, some old school, whatever, you know, I don't care, but you know, nobody wants to have sex with a Bible by the bed. Nobody wants to have sex and somebody speaking in tongues, you know, you're praying before we have intercourse. No, man. Leave the Bible in the office, leave it by the chair, and, you know, wear that Victoria don't tell nobody stuff to be.
So men are visual and women are relational. I think men are like, haven't you ever heard this? Like men are like microwaves and women are like crock pots.
Yeah.
Like you've heard this, right? You've heard this. Like, so it's so different. I still think it goes back to communication. I was going to bring up the 5lovelanguages.com. I think every couple needs to take it, and you need to take the test every few years. If you haven't taken it, if you haven't taken it in 5 years, you need to take it again, because your love languages change. But it all goes back to communication. I was just telling somebody today, I think there needs to be a 5sexlanguages.com. I mean, what a great tool that would open up the conversation about sex, you know, because I think it's something that we just don't talk about. But I still think it goes back to communication when it comes to sex.
Yeah.
You know,
I think one of the problems too is everybody's always asking somebody outside of their own relationship what's okay and what's not okay.
Mm-hmm.
You're asking the wrong person.
Right.
It's right here. Not you go sit with somebody and ask them if it's okay for me to feel the way I feel, your husband or my wife. I think it's important we communicate and find that out, you know. But I think it's very important, and it needs to be what that couple's needs are, not some biblical structure or some. I had a priest tell me one time when I was growing up that the only reason, and I'm talking about I was an adult married, the only reason for sex was to procreate.
I've heard that as well.
And you know, and I didn't think about it until I met that preacher's husband and saw how unhappy he was. Yeah. So, you know, I think it's something, it's don't go outside of your marriage to find out what's okay and what's not okay. Find out from your spouse what's comfortable and not comfortable, and what I like, what you like. And I think that's what makes things work.
Powerful stuff. And I think, as you guys have alluded to, this topic, this subject, because it's been so taboo in church and we stay away from it, I think that's why we watch the infrastructure of marriages, and especially those in ministry, just crumble, because no one has talked about this stuff. We don't talk about it to our people. We don't teach it to our leaders. It's never talked about.
Right.
So I think it's very healthy for communication. And I tell people all the time, in my opinion, sex is one of the most important aspects in a relationship, in a marriage relationship. And when it's not right, it's going to affect every other area of that relationship, because it is the one thing that God gave us to do. And I was telling our people the other day that we are the only creation that God made that procreates eye to eye. And if the eyes are the window to the soul, then that's where you create the soul tie with your soul mate. And that creates for a healthy relationship. And when that's messed up, that whole situation at its bereshit, at its foundation, makes a dysfunctional relationship. So I don't think sex is like number 3 on the chart or number 10. I think it's like the most important thing, because it is the act of marriage, the action, the activity of marriage. It's the endorsement of God on that relationship. That's my opinion.
You can study any study you want, and you will find out sex is the second greatest drive in a human being. Number 1 is survival.
Wow.
That's the only thing above the drive of sex, is I don't want to die. Think about that.
Wow.
That's important.
Strong. Anything else, babe?
It's kind of like the animal kingdom. The first 2 as well.
It is the animal kingdom in my house.
In the jungle. I got to say, coming into this marriage, I learned that the marriage bed is undefiled. I was probably a little, prude? A little bit prude. And Ricky opened up them doors, and he said, "I told her, you gonna learn today. You gonna learn today." But because I was under that impression too, like Bishop said, you have sex to procreate, and that kind of stuck with me. Those religious, right? Yeah. And so when I met Ricky, and he's like, "No, we're married.
We're about to do this."
Hey, you know what we have in common? Fun. What's that? You know what they have in common? She's talking about the animal kingdom. They both married a tiger.
You preaching good now.
No, we both married the lion, and we choose to remain lioness.
Hey, we love y'all. This has been incredible. It's been insightful. It's been encouraging and very enlightening, may I say. But we love you guys very much. We're always in your corner. We support you. Yeah. Thank God for Judah and your ministry, Bishop and Kendall. You're reaching more than you realize. And we just speak the blessing of God over you. And Johvana and I speak success to you guys. And everyone watching tonight, all 4 of us, we pray for your relationships, that your relationships, you understand relationships are real. They're not superficial. You can't fake this stuff. Yeah. This is reality. And we pray that we've helped you all tonight. And if we have, please share this, because more people will watch it this week. We love you all, and we speak the blessing of God over you. We're going to go back to Pastor Christian right now. Thank you, guys. Love you.
Quest Nation, thanks so much for joining us tonight for the last table talk of our series, Relationship Realities. We hope you've enjoyed it. It's been an incredible month of relationships. Hey, we want to give you the opportunity right now to give. Before you log off, we want you to know there's several ways you can give to Quest Church. You can text the word Quest Norman to the number 77977, or you can give on Cash App. The Cash App name is $Quest Norman. We want you to know you can also give on the Quest Norman app. If you'll download that app, you can actually set up recurring giving that way, or one-time gifts, however you want to do it. Download the app anyway. That way you can stay up to date with every event that we have here at Quest Church. And if you miss a message, you can dig into our archives and go back and listen to what Pastor Rick preached. So download the app and give tonight. Whatever's in your heart to give, we would ask that you would give it, because Quest Church is not a container of blessing. We are a conduit of blessing. We want you to know that there are ministries all over the world that we support and that we finance, and you can be a part of that. Your giving is going somewhere. Your giving is bringing the gospel to the globe. So give tonight. And we also want you to know that next Wednesday night, we're going to be right here in the house in person. Don't miss in-person service next Wednesday night. It's going to be an incredible night. And don't miss this Sunday. It is the final message in this Sunday series titled Oneness. Pastor Rick is giving that final message of this series. I promise you don't want to miss it. Thank you again for logging on. Hit that share button. We love you, and we'll see you guys on Sunday.